Good morning. We're here to visit you again with your best year ever. We're talking to mothers and daughters today, maybe even mothers and sons. If you're feeling like you've been together, really together for a while now, and maybe how can I shake this up a bit? How can I make it more healthy for myself and for my kids? That's what we're talking about today. I'm Judy Best with eXp Realty, and I'm here every Monday at 11:30 with a special guest. And so if you are watching live, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you are watching this as a video, we would like you to do the same, but drop in a hashtag replay and tell us where you're watching from. Today, my guest is Tharwat Lovett. Tharwat is a coach, a life coach, but she is educated to be a therapist. She just chose to be a coach because that allows her to offer different solutions other than what she could offer as a therapist. Is that fair to say, Tharwat?
That is fair to say.
Okay.
I was interested in the solution-based therapy rather than the diagnostics.
Right. And she's been here for 14 years now, but she's been married for 18 years. She has 4 children, and she's got lots of degrees, still working on more. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so she has actually spoken into my life a number of times and helped me work through some issues. So I just thank you so much for being here today, Tharwat. Tell us more about yourself and what's happening with you.
It's my pleasure, Judy. Thank you for having me. Like Judy said, my name is Tharwat Lovett, and I am a life coach. I specialize in psychological and emotional wellness. I've had quite the journey in life. And I lean on a lot of that to help me connect with the clients that I work with. I have 4 kids. I've been married, as Judy said, for quite some time, and there's been a lot of trial and error in life. And I also kind of move forward in life in a way that I sit back and I observe a lot, because if when I'm sitting back and I'm observing how other people are responding, especially when it comes to my children, what they respond to and what they're resisting. And through that sort of organic process or evolution, along the way, I'm learning how to reach the kids, what my kids need and what people need, and then trying to meet them there, where they need to be or where they want to be, help them get there.
That sounds like deliberate mothering.
Yes, I try to be intentional and deliberate with the kids, and I also make a concerted effort to maintain a dialogue between myself and the children. So it's not just, sometimes as a parent, we get so busy and we just need everybody to do what we expect them to do for it all to run smoothly. But doing my best to stop when things are getting crazy and listening to them, where they're at and what they need.
How old are your kids, Tharwat?
My oldest is 17, and then I have a 15, almost 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 10-year-old.
Okay, so you've got almost 4 teenagers. You will have before it's all done, right? Yes. And are they all home with you now? Are you all at home together, or are you going out?
We are all at home together. The kids have been, we mix with family some, but we all live in Maumelle. But they've been socially distancing from their friends, which can be very challenging for kids. Thank goodness for the social media, the telephones. It's actually kind of helped the kids maintain some type of socialization, which has been caused them or allowed them not to feel as isolated, maybe. So we've given them a little bit more freedom and liberty regarding that during the quarantine. But yeah, they're ready to go back to school in the fall.
As hard as all this has been on adults, I feel like it's even harder on the children because they don't understand. We had our grandchildren here this weekend, and one of them said, "Are we going to go to IHOP for breakfast?" Because that's one of the things they get when they come to Mimi and Papa's house, is they get to go to IHOP for breakfast. And I explained, no, we still can't go to the restaurants. So, but Mimi will make you cinnamon rolls here at home. Well, they were just as happy with that as they were with the idea of IHOP. But the little children don't understand, and the big kids understand and are hugely frustrated with it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Well, one of the things we're going to be talking more about that today, but Tharwat recently wrote a blog with 13 tips for being the mother, not the martyr, was the title of her blog post. And so we thought we would share some of those tips with you today. If you would like to have a PDF of these tips and a link to her blog, drop #MomTips in the comments, and I'll send that over to you. And so Tharwat, there's 13 tips in this, so we can't cover them all in this short broadcast. What's one of the tips that you would really like to talk about today?
One of the tips that I think, especially right now, as we're continuing to quarantine ourselves, that I think is really important, and that is managing our expectations. Mm-hmm. Kids can actually, they're our greatest teachers. This is challenging for them, but they show oftentimes a lot more resilience than we do as adults. They model our behavior. And I've learned along the way how I've come up with some of these tips is just, I've done a lot of things the wrong way. Having the humility to acknowledge that and pivot once I recognize that maybe this method hasn't worked. So a lot of these tips are just things that I've learned the hard way along the way. Managing expectations continues to be a daily challenge for me. I don't think it's something that, you arrive and it's like, if you're going to, mental and emotional fitness is exactly the same as physical fitness. You can set a physical goal for yourself, change your diet, go to the gym, work out, and then you reach that goal. You don't kick back and say, I've arrived, there's nothing left for me to do. As soon as you do that, then you're going to find yourself in the boat that you were in previously. It's not going to take long for your body to revert back to the way it was before. It's something that you maintain. There's maintenance involved. There are decisions that you make in order to maintain that momentum. Mental and emotional fitness is identical. It's something that we choose daily to participate in. We can approach or reach a goal, but it's still something that we need to remain relevantly aware of in order to keep up with. So managing expectations is challenging. Stuart Wilde wrote in his book, The 33 Steps to Infinite Self, that negative emotion is something that emerges in the gap between expectation and reality. I know I have a lot of expectations of myself, and we set expectations of others or our conditions, right? And when life doesn't happen exactly as I had imagined in my mind that I wanted it to happen, then it's really easy to begin to experience the negative emotions, the disappointment, the frustration, anger, right, depression, anxiety, because it just, we're, as human beings, we're wired. We want that type of predictability. We want consistency. We want control. It alleviates our stress and anxiety because we find security in it, and our body is wired to keep us alive. That's the job of the brain, is survival. So I found it personally in life incredibly difficult to control things. I've tried really, really hard to control everything and to control other people, and it's just failed nearly every single time. So at a certain point, I realized I can't control the conditions around me. But if I manage my expectations of the conditions, if I give myself a little bit more grace and others a little bit more grace, then I'm not experiencing as consistently those letdowns when life happens differently than how I imagined it in my mind or the story that I was telling. So as I begin to manage or practice managing my own expectations of myself and my expectations of my children, then we invite, just as a consequence or side effect of it, more peace into our lives. And children are going to thrive in an environment where there's more peace, love, and support than the stress and anxiety of trying to control everything, not just the environment, but trying to control ourselves as well.
Right. Well, in every relationship, especially in the mother-child, but also in the husband-wife relationship, or your significant other, or whatever, not putting your expectations on them is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So what expectations could you turn loose of right now? I'm asking those of you watching, what expectation could you give up, and it would free you from frustration, unneeded frustrations for both you and your kids and anybody else you're in relationship with. I know when I released the expectation that my husband would deal with his dirty clothes the same as I deal with mine, I was happier. And Tharwat, have you had any specific change with your expectations during this period that you could share just an example of?
Yes, I lived very tightly by my calendar. A lot of my day in and day out was scheduled, and so I expected things to flow in a certain way so I could meet the appointments and accomplish the tasks that I had set for myself earlier, right? During the quarantine, I have discovered that I am happier when I let go of the expectation of everything going exactly as I had planned it to go. So leaving more room for the organic flow. If something gets done, that's fantastic. If it doesn't get done, then that's okay. It wasn't supposed to get done in that moment, and I'll get to it later. So that helps me feel a little bit happier. It also helps the kids, because if I'm not as stressed, then they're not either.
Yeah, and I think it's important to reduce stress right now, because stress leads to arguments, and we need peace in our homes, not arguments. So if we release those expectations we have of others, that's huge. Now, let me remind you, if you'd like to have all 13 of Tharwat's tips for mothers, not martyrs, drop a hashtag mom tips in the comments, and we'll send those to you after the broadcast. One of the ones I really liked from the ones that tips you gave was to challenge conclusions. Can you speak to that one, Tharwat?
Sure. All right, so it's important to note the order in which things happen for us. We pay attention to something, we notice something or become aware of it, then we have thoughts that come about because of what we're focusing on. Those thoughts convert themselves to chemicals, which we experience as emotions, and then those emotions influence our behavior. So it's first of all important to begin consciously directing our own attention. Another one of the points is to look for what you appreciate, and it's gratitude, the practice of gratitude, that begins to shift what we're paying attention to, right? And we cannot control conditions, but we can control how we interpret those conditions or the conclusions that we draw. The fact is, we're at home. The majority of us are spending a tremendous amount of time home, months, weeks at home, with very little contact with the outside world, right? When I say I am stuck at home, there's a different chemical response in my body than when I say I am safe at home. So the conclusions that I draw, the way that I tell the story or narrate the story is not only important to the people around us, right? But it's also important to ourselves on a physiological level. The biochemistry that I'm pumping through my system how my body responds is dependent upon the story that I'm telling or the conclusions that I am drawing. Things happen. Life is hard. It's not our responsibility as parents to make life easy for our kids or to try and make life easy for ourselves. But it's I think time better spent to teach our kids that they can do hard things and to convince ourselves that we can do the hard things. And how we narrate that story or the conclusions we draw are going to determine how smoothly we navigate those experiences.
Yeah. Well, I love that, just changing your words in your mind, but also the ones you speak out loud changes your experience, changes the chemical reaction your body has to the words. So saying I am safe at home is a better way to relate to what we're all doing right now, because we are at home to be safe. We aren't home to be stuck. We're home to be safe. And I'm so thankful that my family is being safe. So we're into the gratitude now. Is there another tip that you would really like to highlight from your notes from your blog post?
Another point that I think is important to make, I love all of them, and they've all played an important role in my life and in the life of my children. And again, it's a daily practice. But another thing that I find incredibly important is that it's our responsibility to teach people how to treat us. Yes. I know in my marriage initially, I expected my husband to be able to read my mind. I mean, I didn't say it that way. I didn't even consciously realize that I was doing that. But I kind of felt like he's my husband. He should know me. He should be paying attention to what my preferences are, what I like and dislike, and how I like to set up conditions in life. And after the first several years of the marriage, I grew increasingly frustrated that he wasn't reading my mind. He wasn't as studious as I expected him to be. Because and that's how I tend to have a natural inclination toward observing and studying other people. I love anticipating a person's need, but not everybody is like that. And my husband wasn't like that at all. And we had gotten into a huge argument, and I was thinking, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then it was that argument that flipped the switch for me. And I realized, because he had told me, I can't read your mind. I need you to tell me what you want and what you need. And in that moment, the message sunk in, and I realized that he needed me. If I wanted him to take out the trash, in my mind, I'm thinking the trash can's full, take out the trash. But in his mind, it's not even on his radar. So he needs me to ask him to do something, and then he immediately hops up and does that. If somebody says or does something that triggers me, being self-aware enough to notice what's going on and then communicating to the other person, hey, I was wondering if you could say this in a different way, because when you say it in that way, it triggers me, or I like it when you do that. Another one of the points is, let's communicate what we like. If my kid puts a dish in the dishwasher, even if it's their dish and they don't do the sink of dishes, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that you put that one dish in the dishwasher. Thank you very much. I love how you did that, because it is human tendency. Physiologically, we are wired to perceive the negative quicker than the positive. And that's just because our body is trying to keep us alive. So we're looking out for the threat and the dangers. And we don't realize that we are inadvertently doing that within our families. So it's easier to identify the things that we don't like or that frustrate us, and to communicate to the other person. And the things that we do like and appreciate, oftentimes we'll note in our minds, but we'll never actually communicate or verbalize that to our family members. So making a point to verbalize, to communicate those things that we're grateful for, to identify when something isn't working, and being able to communicate to the other person, teach them how to treat you.
Yeah. Well, Susan Ortiz is watching, and she said she was talking to your point about reevaluating expectations, but she's speaking exactly to what we're talking about now. She said, I thought if I cooked my husband might do the dishes. Or if I'm doing the laundry, he would put the folded clothes away. And she said, finally, we sat down and talked about it. And he said, I just need you to ask or tell me what you're expecting because I can't read your mind. Exactly what you just said. So I think a lot of people are probably experiencing that, and they just need to remember it's like, let's have the conversation. Let's figure this out together, not just sit back and think the other person's going to get it, right?
Right.
We probably have time for just one more. How about let's talk about validating feelings, not fixes. Is that something we can take off on?
Absolutely. This is a very important point. So something that I learned the hard way as a parent, when my kids were little, they'd come to me and they'd say, I had a problem or something happened at school. And immediately I would jump to, okay, how can we fix this? What's the solution? Or, don't worry about that. You just don't pay attention to what they're saying. That, it's not true. And I could feel in the kids or sense into the kids that it wasn't really helping. There was still this tension, this emotional stuckness that they were experiencing, and not the release that they were looking for from me. And then one time, one of my kids came to me with a problem, and I was at a loss. I didn't know how to fix the problem, and so I told her that that really sucks, and that would have hurt my feelings too. I completely understand. And as soon as I validated that emotion, I could feel that the stress, the tenseness, that pressure of that emotion began to melt away. It dissolved. And I noticed, okay, that's interesting. And so from that point forward, when they came to me with the problem, I did my best to validate their feelings. You're not crazy for feeling this way. I see you. I understand you. And what I began to realize is after validating their feelings, not only would it release the intensity of that emotion, but they were oftentimes able to come up with their own solutions. When they let that emotional wall down, then they cleared the space in their mind to be able to figure out on their own what they needed to do to maybe solve the problem, or maybe they were able just to let it go altogether. So I think especially right now in the time of this quarantine where we're socially distancing, we don't have the physical interaction or the social interaction that we once did. It can be devastating not only for our children, but for us as well. I think that the most important thing that we can ask our family members is how are you feeling, or how do you feel about that, and then allow them to express their feelings. I assume that my kids are okay. I'll check in, make sure they're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, and I'm thinking, okay, what do they have to worry about? Everything is fine. But if I don't take a minute to walk into their bedrooms and ask them, so tell me how you've been feeling, what's going on, then there may be things that they're carrying inside that they need to release. And just asking that simple question can kind of unlock that door for them and validate them so that they can let it go and do what they need to do.
I love that. A lot of times, even at my age, I'm talking to my husband about a problem. I really just want to talk through the feeling. I'm not looking for a solution, but he and I are both problem solvers. And so as quick as we're presented with a solution, with a problem that the other person's talking about, we're trying to come up with a solution immediately. And it's not that, we just want someone to say, yeah, that really hurts, or sounds like a difficult problem. How are you dealing with it? That kind of thing, rather than coming up with a solution, because many of us are problem solvers. Sounds like you are too, Tharwat. So kind of difficult. As we wrap up now, if anybody watching, whether you're watching on replay or live, if you'd like to have all 12 or 13 of these tips, drop a hashtag mom tips in the comments and we'll send it to you. Tharwat, how are you coaching people in this time of isolation? How is that working?
I have had the majority of my clients they've been really great in pivoting. So we do the Zoom, either Zoom or FaceTime sessions. I do some phone sessions, and occasionally at a safe social distance, an individual that doesn't prefer doing that over the phone or Zoom, they'll come into the office and we'll sit 6 feet apart from one another. But I'd say probably 80% of my clients have moved to Zoom and phone at this point in time.
Cool.
I work with whatever the client's comfortable with.
Yeah. As we wrap up, is there any, I don't know how to word this. What kind of people normally reach out to you for assistance? Because I want people to know what kind of services you offer in your office.
My specialization is in psychological and emotional wellness. So any aspect of life where you might be interested in just simply exploring something about yourself. You might be at a place where you're wanting to navigate a change, but you don't know how. Some people come because they want to learn ways in which they can manage anxiety and depression. I have some clients that come in because they're wanting to maybe empower themselves to move a different direction as far as a career is concerned. I've had couples and families come in for mediation or wanting to learn how to communicate with one another more effectively. How can I more effectively teach this other person how to treat me? So there's a broad sort of array or spectrum of ways in which I've helped clients, but it's emotional and psychological wellness. Any area or aspect in life in which you're wanting to improve your psychological health, improve your emotional health, manage stress, all of those things, then those are great candidates for clients for me.
Cool. And thank you for being with me today, Tharwat. I appreciate it. You've been a blessing in my life, and I was happy to share you with others. Tharwat's offices are in Little Rock, right off of Rodney Parham. So if you want to reach out to her, she's definitely, her Facebook page is available, and I'll drop that in the comments. If anybody would like to have the mom tips, just drop the hashtag mom tips and we'll send it to you. And every week we're here live at Monday at 11:30. Next week, I'll have with me Kim McPherson. She is a person who helps people write their stories and publish books. So if you've been sitting at home and thinking, I would like to put all this down in a book, whether it's a story you've made up in your mind, or if it's your own story or some story that you would like to tell, she's going to be here telling you how to get started on that process and get done. Tharwat, thank you so much. I hope you are blessed all week long, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Judy. I appreciate it.
See you guys later. Have a great day. We're out of here for now.